What if there was no more fun in the sports, no thrill of friendly competition, and no reason to get excited or get up about certain events that sports can bring? Well, with the current state and affair of sports, that might soon happen. Now, as sports have grown throughout more recent history, the effects of certain large market teams rising up has impacted the way sports have operated and turned into what they are today. Now myself, I've been playing sports since I was about 3, and I watch and read about sports almost every day for the past decade of my life. First, I'll describe what power these large market teams have on sports. Then I'll go more into how they negatively impact the sports and competition themselves. And then finally, I'll discuss what we need to do to save sports from this control and eventual demise. Now, simply put, the advantage that large market teams have on sports is they have more money to spend. They have what Didel and Frank call as an increased salary cap, which means that they can spend more on their rosters, their arenas, and pretty much everything in between, as long as they pay this certain luxury tax. Now, as these teams in large market cities pretty much have more money, they pay this tax. Simply put, because they have more people, they make more revenue, they can pay more. Now, these teams also have been the most successful. As stated, the LA Lakers, the New York Yankees, Barcelona, and the Golden State Warriors are all teams that may have heard of, may have not, but they have had dominant runs and control over their leagues when spending a certain amount of money historically. Now, as sports grew, there's more amenities and attractions and certain local businesses in these large market cities, which ever more grow the popularity and reason that these large market teams have such control. Now, I'll explain why some of these controls are bad for the nature of sports themselves. So, mainly, these large market teams get their power from wealthy investors. Now, as stated by Groves, studies provide preliminary evidence of potential negative sponsorship effect in the context of rival sports competition within teams and athletes. This being said, it's basically saying that when one team gets a sponsorship, it hurts the image of their rivals because they may get more media attention, international attention, and eventually more revenue, which will increase the benefits of their team while hurting the others. Now, investors simply put a lot of money into sports because it's a large industry. Ahmed stated that in today's global sports industry, there's a net worth of about $500 billion, which is just crazy, a large amount. And with as various as sports are, there's many ways to influence certain events, such as bribery. Now, players, coaches, referees, whole teams themselves have been victims and exposed of bribing crimes, which have very hurt the integrity of sports. No more franchise or incident was more famous than the 1919 World Series, where, as stated by History.com, the streets with literally buzzing with the news that the White Sox players were under the control of these wealthy investors, bribing them to throw the games so they can make money gambling off games. Now, I'll go into more about what we need to do to stop this effect of power of large market teams. As Didel also stated in his article, imposing the same amount that every team can spend would favorably affect the competitive nature of sports that needs to be brought back. Now, going against this, some organizations rely on their extra revenue from spending more, so this may more drastically hurt them than it would other teams that, are already at that same limit. Now, another negative effect and reason that we need to stand up is sports have sometimes just gotten boring. In the past, more recent past, the college football playoff, which has been basically comprised of 2 teams out of hundreds that could be qualified, simply because they make more money and revenue for their business. This has created a boring effect, and has also been exemplified by the Golden State Warriors and the Cleveland Cavaliers in their 2015 to 2018 run. Now, to review, basically, sports and these large market organizations just have an unfair advantage. They can spend more. They can also negatively impact just the way society looks at sports and thinks about sports. And also, they're just ruining sports for our future, and eventually sports may be no more because of large market teams.